It never fails. Someone always asks me, "Hey, Heather, what about?" And honestly, that's where the best conversations begin. I'm Heather Shaw, certified functional nutrition coach and Pilates educator. After walking through my own wellness journey, hello 80-pound weight loss, I now light the path through my program, The Plan, complete with protein-forward recipes, hormone know-how, and a lifestyle for longevity. This is the Exquisite House Pilates and Wellness podcast, Hey Heather, what about? We're diving into all things movement, menopause, metabolism, and more, especially the stuff no one warned us about. I tell it like it is, but always with a wink and a hug. No perfection required, just consistency, curiosity, and better questions. Served up with a side of sass. I am always excited to have a podcast guest, and I have to tell you that today's guest is nothing short of fabulous. As per usual, we always bring the best people, but I want to tell you a little bit about my new friend, Tracy Hess. So Tracy is a certified intuitive eating counselor, as well as a health and life coach. Tracy uses an evidence-based framework that shifts the focus from weight control to overall well-being and care for all bodies. In coaching, she uses a weight-inclusive, compassionate approach to help clients build body trust and develop sustainable self-care practices that feel good rather than forced. Her coaching focuses on present and forward movement, helping clients apply intuitive eating principles and build body trust in real life. It's not medical nutrition therapy or psychotherapy. Her coaching is a collaborative process centered on awareness, experimentation, and self-compassion for everyday choices. Her mission is to help clients achieve a beautiful, comfortable peace with food freedom and their body. And if you don't think we're going to get into it, let me tell you, we are. So Tracy,
Oh, yeah.
I am super excited that you're here, as I always am, that somebody's here, but especially because we have similar kind of things, and you fill the gaps from where my functional nutrition stuff lacks. And you're the kind of person that I refer people out to when I start to see some signs of things that look like disordered relationships with food. So I want to start with help us understand what it means when we say we want to have a healthy relationship to food.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But first, Heather, thank you so much for this opportunity. I am so incredibly grateful to you. Um, this is such a beautiful friendship that is budding, and I'm just so excited for it. You're right. We do have a lot of similarities kind of in our background in the details that we don't have to get into right away. But
Right.
um So when I talk about a healthy relationship with food, it's more about how we are interacting with food than what exactly we're eating. So it's not about eating healthy according to nutrition standards necessarily, although that nutrition is important. It's more about how and we are interacting with that food. So, for me, a healthy relationship means that the person is eating for physical reasons rather than emotional eating. Um, and that they are relying on the cues from their body to tell them when to eat, what to eat, how much to eat. So that really reestablishes autonomy to make your own choices and agency over your own body. So we can let go of a lot of the external rules and guidelines, and this person says do this, but this person says do that kinds of um, information that really just create confusion for a lot of people. So a healthy relationship is really based on trust with the body, trust with yourself. Um, and it's so powerful. It is just such a powerful force in life.
I love that. And you'll hear me say that a lot. I say that all the time. I love that because for me, I think about what it means because a lot of people, like I know I didn't have a great relationship to food. So, how do most people know that they don't have that good relationship? And what are the like common patterns or things that we see when people are struggling with food?
Sure. Yeah, I think so some of the common patterns that we see when someone does not have a healthy relationship with food is kind of the opposite, right? They are relying on all of the external factors to tell them what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat. So they're relying on perhaps food labels to tell them um, what a serving size is. All right. They're consumed oftentimes with the micromanagement of their food. So what they are experiencing is that food is taking up an enormous amount of their headspace. They're thinking about it constantly. Should I eat this? Shouldn't, how much should I eat? When should I eat this? Is it okay to eat this? What's going to happen when I eat this?
Mhm.
Um, a prevailing theme a lot of times is just this profound fear around food.
Mhm.
Um, whether it's a fear that the food is going to cause some kind of damage in the body, it's going to result in um, illness or sickness, or that they're going to get fat. Fat phobia is a huge, huge issue. Um, so it's more
Yeah.
those kinds of patterns that I see where food is judged as good or bad, and that just sets us up for feelings of guilt, feelings of failure, like we just can't get it right. Those kinds of patterns show up.
So,
Okay.
why do you think so many people are confused about food and what healthy eating looks like? What do you think that's about?
Oh, there is so much information available to us now. Um, whether it's through the internet or our medical practices or your best friend's mom or your mom, or I mean, there's just so much information. Um, Everything from the carnivore diet is the best thing ever for your health, all the way to the other extreme of no, vegan with absolutely no animal products is the best thing for your health. So it's no wonder that we're all a little confused when we are relying on those external sources of information to base our decisions on. So it's rarely a lack of information, a lack of knowledge. We all know that eating an apple is very different than eating apple pie. It's more a lack of, I think, connection to self, connection to the body, trust in your decisions, which is really that autonomy. I talk a lot about autonomy and agency with my clients because it is so vital that we get back to that place where we're making our own decisions for our own body based on our body's cues, not somebody else's. It is just so important. That clears up all of the confusion right there.
Where where do you think the biggest mistakes are when people try to eat healthy or they think about that concept of eating healthy?
I think one of the biggest mistakes, and it's so pervasive. So this is probably going to ruffle some feathers, but I think one of the biggest mistakes is calling it healthy in the first place, right? That word healthy, it's kind of been co-opted by wellness culture, to mean something, I don't know, nutritious, nutritionally dense, full of nutrients, all of that stuff. The labeling that we put on foods as either good or bad, healthy or unhealthy, I think is one of the biggest issues. And it's really hard to get away from when it is just so pervasive. It is so ubiquitous. It is
Hmm.
everywhere in our culture
Yeah.
that is the norm. It's really it takes a little bit of a rebellious spirit, honestly, to
Yeah.
take a look at that and go, wait, really?
Yeah.
It's-
No, I agree with you. I think I know for especially for like our generation, a lot of what we learned was diet
oh yeah,
culture. And so untraining that,
absolutely.
yeah, untraining that looks like, we have to understand like it's not about being on track or off track. It's not about healthy or unhealthy. It's are we, and you're probably going to be better at this than I am. But for me, I know when I talk to my clients, this isn't about you feeling deprived. It's never about deprivation. It's always about a wonderful relationship to food and recognizing that the things that are nutrient dense can still be flavorful. They can have great mouthfeel. They can do all the things that we think of in a very indulgent environment of a food experience. And so can we talk a little bit
Yeah.
about what that kind of scenario looks like for your clients or for people who work with you?
One of the one of the hallmarks of intuitive eating is that you give yourself unconditional permission to eat all foods. That does not mean that it is a food fest, right? That does not mean you're going to eat what you want when you want without regard for anything else, right? That's not what we're talking about here. But unconditional permission to eat all foods means that we really take a much more neutral look at food. Instead of labeling it as good or bad, it's food. So that levels the emotional playing field, so to speak. So that if you choose to eat a carrot versus a cupcake, emotionally, those are equivalent decisions. It doesn't make you a better person to eat a carrot, and it doesn't make you a bad person if you choose the cupcake. That is a huge, huge concept.
Mm-hmm.
Huge concept
Mm-hmm.
for people to understand intellectually, much less embody what that means.
Yeah.
So because it's not an eat whatever the hell you want when you want, it is truly based on how does that food make your body feel? And let's be honest, healthy feels good.
Yeah.
So it allows you, when you give yourself that permission to eat all foods, it really allows you to connect with the body and evaluate. Like you said, this is an experiment. How does your body feel when you eat a cupcake versus when you eat a carrot? Taking all of the emotion out of it, all of the judgment out of it, simply based on the physical cues. A cupcake once in a while, maybe even one cupcake every day. It, no judgment, right? This is a judgment-free zone. So if that feels fine, okay, great. It's when it doesn't start feeling fine that we need to make some different decisions, different choices based on those cues, not because somebody else said that cupcake is bad for you.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a completely different approach based on that body trust, body connection, right? A mindset anchored in growth and experimentation and learning, not restriction. Restriction is the enemy.
Yeah.
Honestly, it will
Yeah.
make you do all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really true. And I found like a lot of times with my clients, we talk about, I have used the word healthy, but being in relationship with you has really pushed me out of that to say nutrient dense instead of healthy because there is a place where those things are more nourishing than not in what we're looking at if we have a goal, if we have something we want to accomplish. And teaching that concept to clients for me has been really challenging. I've had clients who are like, well, now I can, what do I eat? And I'm like,
Yeah.
you eat whatever you want. You literally eat whatever you want. It's
Yeah.
just what what you already know. Like I really don't have to tell you. You could put me out of a job easily. I don't have to tell you what is health, what has more nourishment for your body. And that's
Right.
yeah, that's
Right.
I think what
It's
we're really getting into the weeds of is there's this place where yes, we're going to have a piece of cake. Yes, we're going to have, a glass of champagne or whatever it is, but is that going to the question is that going to what is that going to feel like on the other side of that? What is your body going to
uh,
do there? And that's the thing I think
right.
what we're
Right.
starting to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important that we address the how are you going to feel on the other side, both from a physical standpoint, right? Physically, how does it
Mhm.
land in your body, but also emotionally
Yeah.
and mentally. Because if
Yeah.
we are kicking ourselves in the butt and continuing this shame spiral because we chose to eat a cupcake, that's the carrot, right? That
Yeah.
we're constantly chasing.
Yeah.
We want to feel good about ourselves. We want to feel good in our bodies, physically, mentally, emotionally. That's, in a nutshell, I think what we are all chasing, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally the thing. And what do you think is the reason that people lose that trust? Like, I know for me, it has a lot to do with
Oh,
my generation. But
oh yeah. It can, we can, how far back would you like to go? We can, historically, we can go back to the 1890s when diet
Mm,
culture was born. Um, before that, it was more about, like I said, this may ruffle some feathers, but it was more about white supremacy.
yeah,
That the white person's physique was deemed superior.
yeah,
So it goes way back. If we fast forward just to the last 70 or 80 years, so about the 1950s, 60s
yeah,
or so,
yeah,
is when diet culture really became much more prevalent.
yeah,
And it's more about a woman's position in society as in a patriarchal society, right? So we are groomed, our mothers, our grandmothers were groomed to be of service,
hmm,
right? Particularly to the men in their lives. We're groomed to be quiet and submissive. And that translates into what we what we lovingly incorporate into our personalities is that good girl
hmm,
syndrome, right? We're just supposed to be good. Part of that implies that we're supposed to stay small.
hmm,
Don't take up space.
right.
Don't be too loud. Don't ruffle feathers. Well, I'm sorry. I am here to ruffle some feathers. So,
I'm so glad you are.
it's generational, it's societal,
Yeah.
it's in our media, it's in our social platforms, it's in how food is marketed and packaged. Um, it is so pervasive that for most women, we have internalized this to such an extent that it is just a part of us at
Hmm.
this point. And
Hmm.
we have to work. And it takes work to recognize it and to uproot it. So to
Yeah. Yeah.
get it out.
It's so true. And like today, I was teaching classes, and at the end of one of the classes, one of the girls was talking about we always acknowledge milestones. So, how many classes someone has come in and achieved in the studio. And it's not so much because I want to acknowledge they've done all these classes. For me, there's a much deeper meaning, and it's a lot of what we're talking about. It's I want that person to find strength. I want that person to find the transformative impact of being consistent with movement. And so we were talking today about
Exactly.
that. And one of the girls said,
Yeah.
and let me just say, we're speaking right into this. She said, when I put on my leggings, I used to look in the mirror and go, ugh. And she said, and now I put on my leggings and she said, I feel strong today. And it's not, and I said, I love that you can feel good putting your leggings on. She goes, wait a minute, it's not that I feel good. And I went, oh, okay, we still have more work to do, because it's not that she felt good, it's that she felt strong. So there's still a place of lack of acceptance of her person as a whole person, or being deemed presentable based on appearance there. And so that's the thing that you're fighting against. That's the thing that I'm fighting against. That's part of the reason why I do what I do in the studio, why you do what you do. It's all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is just such a big undertaking. It's going to take all of us to really
Mm-hmm.
combat it. Every single one of us. Um,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things I love. Uh, Intuitive eating is really, it's made up of 10 different principles. And one of those principles is to feel the difference that consistent movement has on your body,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love this because I have a history of borderline orthorexia, which is a fancy word for I was obsessed
Yeah.
with all things healthy.
Yeah.
And there's nothing healthy about obsession.
Yeah.
So part of that obsession for me was exercise. I was exercising 2 hours a day, 6 days a week
Wow.
for more years than I can count. Um, and at the time, I thought it was to be, quote, healthy. And the more I learned about myself and about intuitive eating and about what motivates us a lot of times as women, it wasn't about health. It was about appearance. And it was, for me, just talking about me, it was about appearance. It was about control. It was about maintaining my weight because I could never lose it. Even though
Mm-hmm.
I tried
Mm-hmm.
a gazillion different things, the weight never really changed.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all of these things wrapped up. But when I really started to focus on how does movement feel, it is empowering is the biggest thing. It is empowering for an hour to think about muscles contracting and getting stronger and endurance is building and flexibility, and afterwards my mood is better emotionally, I'm much more stable and I'm more resilient, and I can pick things up and put them down without having aches and pains and creaks and cracks. And
Yes.
it is about aging beautifully, not to be beautiful. But I had the pleasure of going to a 95-year-old woman's birthday party a couple of weeks ago. That is what consistent movement does for me.
Yeah.
I want to get to be that 95-year-old in whatever size clothes I'm in. I don't care. I just want to get to 95.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so much the lesson, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this episode today. Part of what we do with this podcast
Yeah.
is talk about things that nobody told us about. And this is the very kind of topic that demands that kind of platform. And that's really what I want to highlight. And I'm so beyond ecstatic that we're having this conversation. And you know me, I have a terribly rebellious nature. which is
Which
why we're
serves you well, my friend. It serves you well.
which is why we're such good friends already.
Oh yeah, that rebellious streak is it's really long and wide in me.
But it also means that to be in the places that you and I are in, we really have to buck the system. And so I want to get back to the concept of how we're redefining all of this through intuitive eating, how we're uh, reassessing what that definition of value and wholeness looks like as a woman. And so, in simple terms, define what intuitive eating actually is. Tell me, like, just like if you were explaining it to a 5-year-old, what would you say?
Um, if I were explaining it to a 5-year-old, it's how a 5-year-old typically will eat, right? They eat what they want when they're hungry.
Yes.
They stop when they are comfortably full, not stuffed to the gills. They don't feel this driver internally to continue to eat, to clean their plate, or to please somebody else, or because they're trying to be polite. Like all of those drivers don't exist yet.
Yeah.
Um, so they eat what they want when they're hungry, stop when they're full. But the key, the real key, is that they are not beating themselves up for their food choices. There's not that internal gymnastics mentally going on, the mental gymnastics of, oh, I had a few too many bites of that cookie. I'm going to have to run an extra lap around the playground,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or I didn't really, it was raining. We didn't get outside for recess today. I probably should skip the cookie, right? There's none of that negotiating with
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
That is what intuitive eating, it's children are natural intuitive eaters
Mm.
until we, as their caregivers who have been baptized in diet culture, beat it out of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, I can say that as the mother of 3 children. My children are now grown, but when they were growing up, they nicknamed me the food Nazi.
Oh.
Just to tell you how I, I was I was horrible. I was really, as a that aspect of parenting, when I was trying to control
Yeah.
everything that they were eating just as much as I was trying to control what I was eating in the name of health,
Yeah.
that did so much damage.
Mm.
It did so much damage over the years. I cannot tell you
Mm.
how many times I've had to apologize to my kids that I was doing the best I could with the knowledge I had at the time.
Yeah.
Um, and we learn and we move on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And we do. I think that's a great thing to acknowledge too, because I think um, too many times when you're describing all of this, I'm seeing everything that you're kind of talking about. And I'm thinking about,
yeah.
making a child sit at the table and finish their plate. What's the benefit of that? Um, you know, I think that
Yeah, or
all of that
it's
stuff, it's, we're helping groom
Yeah.
them in these really just unhealthy, unhealthy is probably the right word, unhealthy relationship to food. And I think um,
Yeah.
that then begs for
But let's
me.
be, I mean, if we can be honest, Heather, there is a lot of pressure,
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot of pressure, particularly on mothers who are traditionally the one in charge of the food shopping, the food preparation, the meal planning. There is a lot of pressure on moms to get it right because of our society, our
yeah,
culture. If you have a child that is in a larger body, you are perceived as a bad parent.
yeah,
That is messed up.
yeah,
That is messed up. But that is the reality of the culture we live in. So of course, moms are terrified of judgment from other moms if they see their kid, you know, indulging, I'm going to put
hmm,
indulging in quotes,
yes,
in unhealthy foods,
yeah,
right? If the kid is going back and forth for, right, my daughter-in-law's mom tells a story of being the room mom, right? Going to school and being the room mom, and she took cupcakes, and this one little boy would take the cupcake and he would go to his desk and he would just eat the icing off the cupcake, right? And then he would come back up to get another cupcake. So she's watching this, and instead of shaming him, instead of telling him that's so bad for you or whatever, she's like, honey, why don't you just bring me back that cupcake? And he brings back the cupcake to her. She puts more frosting on it and hands it back to him. Right?
I love it.
But there is so much pressure. There's so much pressure on moms, on teachers to control
Yeah,
what our kids are eating instead of teaching our kids how to have that connection with their body, so those stop mechanisms are coming from within them
yes,
instead of somebody saying that's bad for you. Kids
yes,
don't care. They
yeah.
don't care that kale is good for you and cupcake icing is bad for you. They don't care.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, the deeper thing you're talking about is that internal autonomy, which we so lose as we age because we start to acknowledge
Yes.
the societal pressures. And so I guess for
Oh,
me,
it starts really young, right? It
yeah,
starts with as we're children and our parents or loved ones or caregivers are eat your vegetables before you can have dessert. How much dessert can you have? Right? It's we are taught to be good eaters based on all of these external rules.
yeah, yeah. And I guess the thing for
It's
me is
it's
that,
beat out of us.
yeah. And the question I have is like, when does that, I feel like we're identifying like when it starts, but then
Oh yeah.
when we start to look at reconnecting or
Hmm.
understanding, how to have that internal autonomy, what does that look like?
Most most of my clients come to me when they recognize that food is taking up way too much space in their head.
Mhm.
It's occupying way more of their time, their attention, their energy than they like. But it's also the guilt.
Yeah.
They just can't handle the guilt anymore.
Yeah.
Um, because in our culture, we are taught that if you don't feel good about your body, the message is then change your body, work
Yeah.
to change your body. instead of reshaping how you think about food, about your body, about exercise. So it's a lot of that kind of messaging that people are just so burdened with mentally, emotionally, and physically. They know that there's a disconnect somewhere, right?
Yeah.
They just sometimes need help identifying, well, where is that? Is it in the physical cues? Are they, because it's not uncommon for my clients to come to me and say, I don't feel hunger anymore. I don't
Yeah.
feel fullness anymore. So there's a physical disconnect. But also we have to pay attention to the thoughts and the emotions that the client is feeling, because those are the big drivers. There is almost a pervasive dissatisfaction with the body as a whole.
Yeah.
That undercurrent, um, that theme is always running in the background.
Yeah. And then when they work with you and they start to come out of that a little bit, what do
Mm-hmm.
they start to recognize? Like there's a neutralness to food, there's a neutralness to their being, there's a neutralness to kind of what it means to eat. What does that help? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, so I address the coaching platform, so to speak, from three different areas. We talk about the mindset, which a lot of it is stems from diet culture. It's an all or nothing. You're either on track or off track. The judgment that we place on food. I go really much deeper into the history of diet culture because I think it's important to give context
Hmm.
to why we think the way we do, why we behave the way we do, that it's not that we are failing, it's that the system has failed us.
Yeah.
So that's a huge component of it. But then we also talk about eating behaviors, and we work to, there's tools and techniques to help build awareness around hunger, around fullness, about satisfaction, right?
Hmm.
We work to open ourselves to that unconditional permission to eat without judgment, so that we start to um, neutralize those interactions with food, because it's only when the client can truly identify the physical driver to eat, right? Physical hunger.
Hmm.
It's only when they can identify that and identify comfortable fullness based on those internal cues,
Hmm.
only then can we start to kind of tweeze apart when they are eating for emotional reasons outside of the physical drivers. That is emotional eating, is when
Right.
we are eating in response to an emotion, not the physical cues. So it's kind of a full circle, right? We
Yeah.
we look at mindset, we look at eating behaviors, we talk about body image, and how do we go from this place of body dissatisfaction, maybe even body hatred, to having a more neutral perspective of the body as a vehicle to experience life,
Hmm.
to what does it mean to actually take care of that vehicle? What
Hmm.
does body respect look like? Right? We don't have to work on, there's a lot of coaching programs I see out there that talk about body love, like you have to love your body.
Mm.
I disagree. You don't have to love every part of your body in order to care for it. And that is
Mm.
body respect. So, respect is a much more profound way to interact with the body than loving it, right?
I
We
love
don't have to
that.
get those warm fuzzies.
Yeah. I think that's huge because I'm thinking about, and we've talked a little bit about this, but I mean, I did not have a great relationship to food. I've been sober for 21 years. That was the episode before. A couple episodes ago, I did a whole thing on that. But I will say that the thing
Yay.
that I learned, yes, the thing that I learned in recovery was exactly what you're talking about. And I don't know that use the word respect, but I like that word better because what I've used is honor. And I think those kind of they're
Mhm.
very symbiotic.
Yeah.
But I do think that what you're saying is very valid because there's a place where you can't get to where we are in life and not look in the mirror and go, things are not where they were. But we can absolutely look in the mirror and go, okay, things are not where they were, but this body is awesome. This body can do things. This body is amazing. And I think that is the respect piece of this that I'm so appreciative that you're talking about because I think there's too often, especially when as we age and become midlife people, we too much are so focused on staying in that predetermined kind of societally acceptable place. And the
Exactly.
reality is the beauty of menopause is that we just stop caring anymore and we're like, this is where I am and this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to figure out my own definition of what makes me feel good and what makes me be okay in my skin. And I love that we're like taking that whole thing full circle in this conversation because I think it's
Yeah.
huge. If we can get there and strip away some of that stuff, then how much further along are we going to be and be able to get to 95 and be okay and have a quality of life that is tremendous because
Yeah.
we've shed all of this nonsense that was imposed on us. I love this. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I
huge.
think for me, the epitome of having a good relationship with the body is what we call body liberation. So
Mm.
that's a step above body respect. So body respect is you personally caring for your body in simple ways, right? It's it doesn't have to be profound, right?
Yes.
But practicing radical self-care, radical self-acceptance, radical self-compassion,
Yeah.
right? That is body respect. Body liberation is when your self-worth as a woman is completely disconnected, decoupled from your body at all. Other
Mm.
people's opinions of you, society's opinions of you no longer matter. And then you can truly be an advocate for women's empowerment across the board,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You start to be an advocate and a change agent
Yes.
against, that's when that rebellious streak really starts to,
Yeah. I
let's
mean,
go.
that's exactly, I'm thinking about what you're saying and it's just resonating because I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, that's exactly where I've come. I've come so far in all of this. And I want so much for our audience to have an insight into what this looks like. I think it's really huge.
Yeah.
And I think when we start to recognize that it's we're making choices that are serving us rather than serving someone else is where we get to really
Yes.
incite that change and it's so amazing. So there's a lot of people that talk about, especially when they come to see me, they get really worried about rules. I am not a rules girl. I have guides, but I don't necessarily have rules. And if there's a place where even those guides are not helpful, then I want to refer somebody to someone to somebody like you who can then help that person ascertain, is this beneficial, is this not beneficial? Because for me, I'm looking at food as nourishment. I'm looking at, let's help optimize your health versus whether something's good or bad. And you're taking that even further along and saying this isn't necessarily
Yeah.
always about nutrition. It can be even more about all of the other things that come into our relationship with food. Where is that delineating factor?
I'm
talking about the emotional versus the physical aspect of eating, and we look at that
Mhm.
muddy relationship with food, how much of that is people not acknowledging the true intuitive signals that happen internally versus their conditioning.
Oh, I see. I see. Everybody is different. So everyone that I work with, there are elements of all of it, right? I call it the triangle of awareness.
Okay.
So when we start to bring awareness to, the physical sensations coming from the body, hunger, fullness, satisfaction, that's one level of awareness. But if we look at, the other corner of the triangle, we also have to bring awareness to the thought processes that are underlying some of our decision making and our interactions with food and exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the mindset piece really comes into play. And diet culture is a huge, huge component of the mental distortion that happens around food.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to address that. But then the emotional is the other component of the triangle of awareness is our emotions. And bringing awareness to what are you feeling in the moment. Because most of us, I know for me, I was never taught to truly identify what am I feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And if we take that a step further, what is that feeling? Is it as a messenger from the body? What is that feeling saying I need? For instance, if you're feeling stressed, what do you need? It's probably not the cupcake, although it might taste good. It's not going to it's not going to relieve your stress.
Right.
If you're feeling tired, you need rest. If you're feeling shame, we need acceptance.
Right.
If you're feeling judged, if you're feeling like there's judgment, either you judging you or somebody else judging you, we need compassion,
Yeah.
right? We need forgiveness. Like, what do we need in that moment? It might be connection. If we're feeling lonely, right? We need connection with another human being,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's why I say when we start to identify the physical signals and we unravel some of the mental cognitive distortions that are going on around food and exercise, that really opens us up to be able to examine the feelings behind it so that we truly can address our needs in the moment instead of turning to food, turning to other people, codependency, alcoholism,
Mm-hmm.
drug addiction, like all of these shopping, gambling, all of these other ways that we can distract, ignore, squash
Yeah.
the emotion
Yeah.
that we're not taught to identify in the first place.
No, I mean, we're getting into the bigger picture of this, which is where I talk about
Big.
when I'm going into coaching with someone, we're talking a lot about the hedonic and hedonic parts of our lives. And that's specifically what you're addressing is that whole hedonic kind of behavior that leads to a lot of the self-loathing that we have and that really poor relationship with ourselves because those things don't actually hit the way we want them to hit. And it's really not the care that our psyche and body really truly needs. And it's huge. But
Right.
then when we look at,
It
and I,
is. And if we're,
go ahead.
I was going to say, if we're looking at it from a hedonics, hedonistic viewpoint, food is supposed to be pleasurable.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be. So
Yeah.
that ensures our survival. We are hardwired to repeat experiences that we enjoy.
Right.
Eating is one of them. So it's supposed to be pleasurable, but diet culture rips all of that. It strips it down
Hmm.
to micromanaged, macronutrients and calories and
Yeah.
good foods, bad foods. It takes all of that pleasure out of it into just eat by the rules, stay in the guardrails,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's true. And I think about like the hedonic aspect when we start to have that more purposeful kind of slow burn to our reward system and we start to rewire ourselves to be more interested in that, then I feel like for me, I know when I started changing my relationship to food, it's much more in tune with like I know if I want to have something enjoyable, I'm going to do that, but I also know that I'm going to make that choice consciously, and I see where
Mm-hmm.
the purpose is in that. And you're right. It's if I am not mindful about what is happening in my just moment, if I'm stressed, if I'm tired, if I'm overstimulated, all of those things, then I there is that natural propensity to go to that hedonic place. But when in reality, if I don't do that and go to the
Yeah,
hedonic and kind of look at what is the greater good for me in this, where's the purpose in this, where is the actual long-term reward, and I get to that place, then I'm like, I just conquered the world. And I think that's part of what it sounds like you're kind of trying to help people find is yes, we're going to enjoy our food, but we're going to also enjoy it with the concept that like
absolutely.
it's not with somebody else's definition of what we're supposed to do with it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
huge.
I like to use and restriction plays such a huge part of our how we have been taught to think about food. It is from a very restrictive viewpoint, right? Good and bad, healthy,
Mm-hmm.
unhealthy,
Mm-hmm.
eat this, not that. Um, and all that really does psychologically is drive us to eat more. So I use pizza as an example, right? My personal experience, right? Somewhere years back, right? What do you want for dinner? Of course, it's my responsibility to figure out what everybody's going to have for dinner. Well, I didn't plan. So it gets to be 5 o'clock on a Friday night. Nobody has a plan. Everyone's getting hungry. What do you want to do for dinner? Let's order pizza. And in my head, I'm thinking, you know how bad that is for us? This is when I was
Mm-hmm.
neck deep in diet culture,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So I'm like, you know how bad that is for us? That is so bad. I don't say anything. I'm thinking these things. So we order the pizza. I get the veggie lovers, right? So I'm at least trying to minimize the damage, so to speak. We get the pizza. We sit down at the table, and in my head, I'm planning, right? Because food at this point takes up way too much space in my head. So I'm already
Yeah.
planning, I'm only going to have one piece, right? Well, one piece turns into two. And then two pieces becomes the what the hell effect. I've already blown that plan. So let's just keep on going. So I have three, maybe four, because let's be honest, I can eat. So I have my four pieces of pizza, right? I'm over full, so I'm pretty stuffed by this point. Then the shame spiral starts.
Yeah.
Right? Oh God, I can't believe I did that. I was so bad. I wake up the next day. Of course my body doesn't feel good. I'm bloated. I'm constipated. I'm dehydrated because I didn't drink enough water to flush all of that out. So what do I do the next day? I'm blaming the pizza. See, it's that pizza's fault that I'm feeling this way. I should never eat pizza again.
Yeah.
When in reality, the pizza is fine. It is my behavior around the
Yeah.
pizza.
Yeah.
Had I gone into it with an intuitive eating mindset, which I have done 1,000 times since then, I'm able to really kind of eat that pizza with presence. I'm there, I'm connected to my body, I'm aware on a sensual level,
Mhm.
taste, right? How does the crust, is the texture of the crust really to my liking? Is it the right balance of sweetness and spice with
Yeah.
the I am present. And if it's not checking all of those boxes, I might only have one piece because on a satisfaction level, I'd rather eat something else. I'm also connected to how is my body going to feel. Well, I know if I have more than two pieces, I'm not going to feel great the next day based on
Right.
experience.
Right.
Right? So that changes how I look at the pizza, how I interact with the pizza, how I feel physically, emotionally, mentally around the pizza. The pizza hasn't changed a bit.
Right. Right.
It's,
Yeah.
it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
It's not about, it's really not about the food at
Mm-mm.
all. It's
Mm-mm.
not,
No.
which
And
is mind blowing because that's all we're taught to focus on.
yeah. And when we're talking about this and I'm listening to this story, I'm thinking about what is, I know I get pushback. What is the hardest part for you, for people when they start to go through this process? Where is the pushback?
Um, I would say if somebody is really struggling with embodying intuitive eating, it's generally going to come from one of two places, right? They are connected though. So if somebody is having a hard time letting go of diet culture as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
particularly around weight,
Mm-hmm.
if they are having a hard time letting go of weight being a determining factor in their health, which that's a whole nother podcast.
Mm-hmm.
If they are hung up on the scale, which is huge, most women are more afraid of getting fat than they are of being sick.
Yeah.
So letting go of that weight stigma, and I'll be honest, Heather, you and I are in what are considered socially acceptable straight bodies,
Right.
right?
Right.
We feel weight stigma and
Yeah.
fat phobia,
Yeah.
but nothing. We cannot understand what somebody in a larger body, perhaps what it feels like to not fit in an airline seat comfortably,
Yeah.
right? I can conceptualize that, but what that feels like, I don't. So
Well,
somebody that is
yeah.
struggling with intuitive eating has generally uh, undergone a tremendous amount of weight stigma,
Mm-hmm.
where weight is an issue. Um, and that leads to really the second struggle is letting go of the judgment around food, giving themselves unconditional permission to eat
Yeah.
based on that good food, bad food.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that hang people up the most
Yeah.
is around the weight
Yeah.
stigma and around the labeling of food.
Yeah. And for me, that's part of my message is I have been in a bigger body. I mean, I've lost 80 pounds. And so for me to sit where I am today, I know a lot of the thin privilege. I see that. I see as
Oh
someone
yeah.
who works in health and fitness, I see the still, even in the industry, stigmas, even in, um, groups, networking groups, that type of thing. I still see a lot of the prevalence of that dogmatic kind of idea. And what I have fought to do is be the antithesis of that, because I know that that person's body is not determined healthy by the number on the scale. It's not determined by their BMI.
Not
It's
at
not.
all.
And I would go so far as to say that the person who is in a larger body, their body is working 10 times harder than someone who's in a thinner body. And you can also be thin and very unhealthy. Like if we looked at you, if we did a DEXA scan to see
Absolutely.
what your body composition was, you can be super thin and within the right range of whatever and have a ton of visceral fat. So your appearance is not always the definition of health. And so I love what you're talking about, because
Yeah,
it's coming up against all of those things that we, even in our industry, we still are fighting against. Because I mean, I can think of a handful of
absolutely.
people right now that I know who still have those kinds of thoughts, or I've had conversations and just thought, if you only knew what that person is dealing with in their own person, you would not even say those things out loud. So I'm with you. Um,
Yeah.
so I want to talk about like practical takeaways. And I also want to I want to get to the fact
Mhm.
that this is not the end of this conversation. There is more to come.
Oh God,
So,
no.
so if someone is working on having a more balanced, is probably a good way. I was thinking about the right word to put in there. A balanced relationship
Yeah.
to food, a more neutral relationship to food. What are a couple things that they can kind of immediately implement, or things that you would suggest for them to start to think about or act upon?
There's so many things that we can do. Depending on where they are at in their journey and their experiences, I would say reaching out for support may be necessary. In that, it doesn't have to be me. I mean, I would love to talk to anybody who's listening, but it doesn't have to be me. It can be you. It can be another weight neutral health coach. It can be a therapist that's been trained in intuitive eating.
Mhm.
Just a little caveat, if somebody says, if they are using the title Certified Intuitive Eating Counselor, that is a special designation. That means we have been trained by the original developers of intuitive eating. It's a specific training. It's not a weekend course certification kind of process. So
Cool.
anyone that says they are a certified intuitive eating counselor is qualified to walk them through this process. There are books to read. Intuitive eating is a book. You can order
Okay.
it on Amazon. If they are in a black or brown body, I would highly recommend that they read Fearing the Black Body. It's another book
Mm,
written about the racist background of diet culture and BMI. So there's books to be read. There are people to follow on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. Curate your social media feed so that you're seeing body diversity, body sizes and shapes that are representative of real women. 98% of the women that we see visually in movies and on TV shows and things like that are of that thin ideal.
mhm,
So curate your feed so that you're
mhm.
seeing representation. Like there's so many things that we can do. Recognize within yourself where you're holding judgment against yourself, against others, against food. Noticing, like I was at a party, a gathering the other evening of 12 women. And of 12 women, what the conversation turns to. And I'm like, look, I don't, let's, there's so many other important things that we could and should be talking about
Yes.
besides our bodies and our
Yes.
weight and
Yes.
how we're trying to lose that last 10 pounds. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bold, though.
I love
I will
that.
admit I'm bold. I'm going to
I
call you out on it.
No, I think it's good. If someone is feeling like, say that someone is, I'm thinking about like the person, and I know for me, when I was starting down this journey and I had lost about 50 pounds, and it wasn't so much about the loss, it was more about that I really had to change that relationship. And that was the place. Like I hit that 50-pound
Yeah.
mark and I was like, okay, something has to give here because the next bit of this, I know I can't keep my mindset the way it is. So if someone is in that place, do you think it's more helpful for them to just make the leap and make an appointment with somebody like you, or do you think they can still kind of white knuckle it with books or other kind of resources, or what? Help me with that a little
So
bit.
I would ask, what is the goal?
Good
Because
question. Yeah.
if the goal is weight loss, that is in and of itself part of the problem, right? With intuitive eating, weight loss is kind of on the back burner. It is not the focus. It is absolutely not the focus. Can weight loss happen on this journey? Absolutely. I've had a client several years ago that lost 100 pounds, but weight loss was not her focus. Weight loss was a happy coincidence. So it's not about the weight. It is about connection with self.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's about trusting your body. It's about awareness,
Yeah.
not about the scale.
Yeah. And I kind of knew that was your answer. That's why I asked the question. I was like, I want to hear what Tracy's going to say here, because that is exactly what I wanted to hear. I wanted people to understand that it's really, and I say to people all the time, like the reason that you come to work with me isn't because you want to lose 20 pounds. The reason that you come to work with me is because you want to nourish your body in a way that honors and respects your body and is presenting a goal of longevity. If you want to eat the way that you're comfortable eating,
Yes.
more power to you. I have no problem with that. That's up to you. But if you want to figure it out, that's the conversation. And I love that this really marries well because it's a lot about understanding what your relationship is to food. It's huge. And we could go on for hours, and
Yeah.
we are going to go on for hours coming up. So on
Yeah.
April 25th, here at the studio at noon, you and I are going to be
Yay.
doing a workshop. We're going to do, I'm going to talk all about meal prep, which is more along the lines of helping people understand how to make food, to make it easy, to reduce some of that decision fatigue, and to start to help them have an understanding of what is nourishing. And then you're going to continue to talk about intuitive eating and kind of share with our participants what more of this conversation looks like. And I'm excited about that.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Yeah.
It's going to be
So I
amazing.
am really, I'm really hoping to reframe how people think about meal prep to come from a place of support for their
Yeah.
body, support for their family, decreasing stress,
Yes.
decreasing that, the ick that we
Yeah.
feel around food, where diet culture has hijacked meal prep to mean portion control.
Right.
That's not what we're talking about. That is
Mm-mm.
not it. So
No.
come to the workshop so you can learn more about how all of these components fit together to support you to just be comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah. Exactly. And Tracy, if people want to work with you, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the easiest way is to either call me. I'm happy to share my phone number here, or you can email me. I'm at Tracy, Tracy, at dominionwellnesscoaching.com. You can go to my website. You can send me a text message, send me a DM. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Um, Yeah, just a gazillion ways that we can reach out and connect. Just pick one. It's all it takes.
Sure to put in the show notes all of your contact info so that people can get a hold of you. We'll also put in the show notes our workshop and a link on how to sign up for that. And we could talk for hours.
I'm so
We do talk
excited for
hours.
that. That's going to be great.
It is. It's amazing. And I think that there's more of a conversation to be had. There always is with us. And I love that about this friendship. It means so much to me that we continue to I always say iron sharpening iron. We hone each other really well. And I'm so grateful. And I have to say a huge thank you to you for just beginning to get us into this very deep subject and for continuing to be a rebel, because I love your rebel heart. So thank you for being here.
My pleasure, Heather. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening and asking the question, hey, Heather, what about? I hope we inspired you to create a lifestyle for longevity. You deserve it. If something sparked a shift for you today, don't keep it to yourself. Pass it along to a friend. Leave us a review to help others find us. Be sure to hit that follow button so you never miss a moment of real talk and real transformation. Ready to start your wellness journey? Visit theexquisitehouse.com to join us in the studio and learn more about The Plan, our signature program for nutrition, movement, and midlife transformation. And remember, keep asking questions. I'll be here with answers.